point of this video is to see how mean you can be to NPCs before you say, you know what? That's even too much for me. This video is a public service which will allow you to determine if you are a kind human with a soul or a fucking psychopath. Were you offended by this tweet? I put this out a little over a year ago. I got a lot of shit for it. In essence, I was asking if you were playing a game and you had to do something really awful, in this case, going into like a nightclub filled with minorities, blacks, Jews, LGBTs, whatever, and murder them in order to get a trophy, could you bring yourself to do something so conceptually awful in order to get your reward? People said this was offensive and it was a horrible question and people thought I was supporting this terrible act. And it was nothing like that, of course. What it was I was trying to figure out, have NPCs gotten so realistic? Have games gotten so effective? Or have I gotten so old that I just can't look at these characters in games anymore as ones and zeros? Well, lo and behold, somebody actually made a video game that's going to let us test this out. The game's called Maniac, and it just came out on Steam today. Now, it's cartoony, and that tends to dampen the shock factor. I imagine if this game was more realistic looking, you'd have a lot more people talking about this, and not necessarily in a good way. I don't know if this is going to stir up any controversy, if people are going to be up in arms about it. I will say it is a very fun game. It is addictive. It's frantic. It's very well made. It's just really good. The developers call it Vampire Survivors meets GTA 3. That's somewhat apropos, actually more like GTA 1. To me, it feels more like all those things mixed with the old PlayStation game Loaded and Smash TV. I got an early code and I've been playing a ton of this. It's a blast, but that's not the point. In this game, you play a number of these psycho characters, starting with kind of a drunk Santa Claus that goes on a rampage, and you're trying to stay alive without the FBI, the cops, innocent civilians trying to take you down long enough for a nuke to launch and destroy everybody, right? That's the core of the game. It's very arcadey. It is addictive. Like I said, it's a very fun game. There's a bit of a roguelike structure to the game as well. Every time you die, you're able to go back, spend the money that you earned in game, upgrade your character, get new abilities, upgrade your weapons, then take another run and see how far you can get this time. And at first I was just enjoying it because it's fun, and I wasn't really paying much attention to the violence of it because it was so small and so far away and cartoony that it just didn't register as anything other than like over-the-top comic book stuff. So I don't think many people watching this video who watch this channel are going to go, ooh, I have a problem with that. No. But I started trying to go, okay, but I want to unlock more characters. What do I do to unlock more characters? And lo and behold, this was basically my tweet. If I want to play this character, I have to kill a lot of babies. And trust me, when you kill the babies in this game, you hear them because they cry. If I want to play this character, I got to run over a bunch of school kids. A lot of them are coming out of the school bus, so they're easy to find. There's a mechanic in the game where you can be a social media star and you can attract fans, which basically all that's doing is attracting a big body count to where you're at so you can run them over and shit like that. I don't really have a problem with this. No problem driving around trying to kill all the babies and kids I could because I wanted those characters, and it, you know, yeah, the babies cried, whatever, but it didn't really bother me that much. And I have fucking kids, man. But then I started thinking, okay, maybe it's the cartoony aspect. But then I put other scenarios in my imagination. I was like, well, what if it was a pride parade? Or what if it was a Black Lives Matter march? Or what if it was the Women's March? Or just any of the things that a progressive kind of lefty guy like me would support. And then I was just like, oh, I don't think I'd want to do that. I think I wouldn't do that. I would just be like, I'm not going to unlock the character. And I'm like, yeah, but Jeffy, it's so far away. And it's so cartoony that what does it matter? I'm like, I don't know. Okay, so here's the first test for you. Would you do that? If they released an upgrade and said, okay, it's Pride Month. If you can basically take out the 5 parade floats at the Pride Parade, you get to unlock these 5 cool weapons. Or it's Black Lives Matter, it's Black History Month. If you can kill 150 black folks, you get to unlock this cool superhero character, right? Assuming no one would ever know but you. Would you do it? I wouldn't. I would not do it. And I'm not saying like, I'm some upstanding citizen. There's some threshold that gets crossed. Holy shit, the lighting's changed. And I've changed my shirt. Well, some time has passed, basically about 2 days, because I wanted to really think about this. I wanted to figure out why I was feeling this way, like what was causing it. So I looked at some other games. I went back to try to play a game called Jesus Strikes Back. It's a game where you can pick all of these really horrible bad guys from history, including Adolf Hitler.
Did you say you could play Hitler? Jesus Jaffe, way to rip up your progressive card, you moron. Anyway, just like and subscribe, I guess.
It was basically a game where you could play Hitler, and he ran around shooting a bunch of liberal trope, stereotypical characters. So I figured, let me try this, see if I'm actually capable of pulling the trigger in a game like this. And at first I was just like, it's stupid. I could shoot everybody. But there was one point where you go into a hospital and I was just like, I can't do it. I couldn't shoot anybody in the hospital. It's not like we were talking photoreal graphics, but I still just couldn't do it. So I went and picked up the game Hatred. I've heard a lot of people talking about how offensive it is, and I had not played it yet. I grabbed it off the Steam store yesterday, and it's very similar, at least in perspective, to Maniac. It's not as arcady, and obviously the tone is darker, aiming at a more sinister photorealistic style. But, you're pulled back, you're away from the main character. I was curious how this would affect me. I figured, fuck it, let's see if I can go in and just shoot people randomly like I could in Maniac. And this is what happened. I couldn't do it. I could not kill that guy. Maybe it's the stuff that we can look at the headlines and say, and it's not like with God of War. God of War I had and still have no problem killing innocents for power-ups and all that, because I don't know, maybe it's because it's so distant from our actual lives. But the minute you get into scenarios that are actually happening, now that and again, whether that's age or we're more connected with media and the internet and news, I don't know. But people are being vicious to certain marginalized groups. People do treat individuals terribly. And that doesn't mean that's not reflected in a game like Maniac, but it's something about a game like that or a game like God of War is so removed from my reality that has to be what it is, I think. I don't know. Do you experience this? And if you do, why? And if you don't, why? Help me understand the brain.